Hello everybody and welcome back to this week's edition of the Weekly Pulls. My name's Derek. These are my picks for the week of May the 5th. I'm having two picks of the week, you guys. I'm doing my pick from my pull list and I'm going to do a feature of what I'm reading digitally through ComiXology. For this week's pulls, I've got 5 titles to talk about with you today. I've got 3 Marvels, 2 Indies. Let's get started. The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 65. What can I say about The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 65? I'm going to be honest. Not a whole lot. It wasn't that great. It felt like a filler. They're really leading up to Sinister War. Every other page in this thing was an advertisement. I mean, unless you're a hardcore collector like me, I've been getting Spider-Man since last year and I'm not going to stop. But if you're looking for a place to jump in, this isn't it. Save your money, wait until next week. I didn't care much for the art in this book. We're going to take a look at a panel of Peter and MJ here. Peter looks goofy as hell, you guys. I don't know what they're doing right now or who drew this really, but dang, man, you did my boy dirty. Spidey's still wearing the new suit. These people called the Syndicate show up. It's like an all-women's version of the Sinister Six. Not that I don't care, but I mean, really, just this issue didn't really give me big picture story. It was like talking about Robbie and Tombstone, and Tombstone's daughter, the new Beetle, and Robbie's son, and they're dating. I don't care. Where's Spider-Man? They're leading up to Sinister War. I will say the second half of this book was much better than the first. We see Norman Osborn. He's in charge of Ravencroft. He goes into somebody's cell and he tells him he needs a favor, but it doesn't show us who he is. But based off of all the advertisements in this book, I'm going to guess it's probably the Chameleon. Just an educated guess. Boomerang's still out there looking for the Lifeline tablet. He didn't tell Peter where he was going because Boomerang's the one getting the visions, and he thinks he needs to do it on his own. Like I said, I don't really care what Boomerang's doing. Spider-Man and his their pet Gog. I'm not going to go into Gog. Definitely Google Gog if you care. Gog's pretty cool. He's using Gog to find Boomerang. I will say the last page of it, he says, I'm going to need some help for this. And I'm going to recruit some big help. And there's some pretty big superheroes that he's asking for help. So, I mean, Sinister War has the potential to be pretty big, you guys. I'm excited for it. We'll say this issue did kind of suck. But next week we're getting a giant-sized issue of The Amazing Spider-Man. That's what it's called. Giant-sized Amazing Spider-Man King's Ransom #1. It's going to be $5.99. So I envision it's probably going to be a pretty big comic book. Definitely going to get it. I hope it's better than this. Because if not, I don't know, man. Like, this was pretty boring to say. I've been reading The Amazing Spider-Man twice a month since last year, and this is probably the worst issue that I've read. I think they're just really trying to build up to Sinister War, and I hope I'm right. The Amazing Spider-Man 65, like I said, if you're a collector, pick it up. If not, don't worry about it. Alright, you guys, next up we have an ongoing series from Marvel. This is issue number 3 out of 4, Carnage, Black, White, and Blood, #3. I was really excited for this issue, and I'll tell you why. In my last video, I went into detail about Dan Slott, a little bit about Dan Slott, how he wrote Spider-Man for 10 years. He never got to do a Carnage story for whatever reason. When he was on Spider-Man, they were using Carnage and other stories, this and that. Dan was on Twitter, and he was very vocal about how excited he was to write a Carnage story. And he nailed it, dude. Dan, your Carnage story in this, titled No Survivors, buddy, you killed it. The No Survivors story really embodied the horror and the pure insanity that is Carnage. Like, if you're not a tried and true Spider-Man fan, you might not know that much about Carnage. So I'll give you a little bit of my point of view. Carnage is probably one of the most, if not the most, violent, vicious supervillains in Marvel. I mean, Cletus Cassidy, he was a serial killer before he got the symbiote, and the symbiote just amped him up to like 1,000. Carnage is nasty. I mean, he's bloody. He will gut you. He enjoys it. Carnage is ruthless. And Dan Slott really captured that in No Survivor. Story, simply put, without giving you any spoilers, they call it surviving a Carnage attack. And Carnage attacks this music scene, and he kills everybody in the club except one, and he's the sound engineer for the band. And that's all I'm going to give you, because this story is so well written. It gave me goosebumps. You could feel the tension. You could cut it with a rusty butter knife. It was really well written. The next story that's in this comic is called Sea of Blood. Let's just take a look at this. I love this pirate ship. The detail, the water itself, holy shit, you guys. I loved this page, and I loved this story. It's a really creative story. So they take Cletus Cassidy, aka Carnage, and they make him the captain of a pirate ship called the Carnage, and he's looking for treasure, which is the symbiote. And he runs into another pirate ship headed by Captain Eddie Brock with first mate Jameson aboard the vessel called Venom. It was a really fun, creative story. I really enjoyed it. These Black Light and Bloods from Marvel are so well done. Lastly, the third story in this comic is called The Con. Long story short, they're at a Comic Con, and there's this Carnage cult, and they're trying to summon Carnage by having a giant sacrifice. And little do they know, Carnage was already there. That's all I'm going to tell you about that one too. You just need to read it for yourself. The details in these books, the stories in these books, the art in these books. Everyone talks down on Marvel for selling out to Disney and it's watered down. This book simply is not. There's a lot of blood, gore. It's really good. If you're a fan of Carnage, pick it up. Carnage, Black, White, and Blood, #3. You guys, next up we have the conclusion to a 3-part series, X-Men, Curse of the Man-Thing. Now, last video we had the Amazing Spider-Man, Curse of the Man-Thing. This is the 3rd and final installment for the Curse of the Man-Thing. It's coming out on a trade paperback this July, so if you missed out on all 3 of these issues, or you weren't sure you wanted it, but you still want to check it out, it is coming out on a trade paperback this July. Now, let's get started and talk about this issue. It wasn't my favorite. If I had to pick a favorite of the 3, it was probably the previous one, The Amazing Spider-Man. This one just really felt not forced, really, but it was just very melodramatic. It didn't really give me any surprises. I didn't get anything out of it. I didn't feel surprised. I never felt, wow, holy cow, that was cool. Like, it was just kind of like, okay, this is the conclusion, and it's nothing that you didn't really expect. Not saying that this book is bad by any means. It's not bad. It's a good comic. It's just not the best of the 3. We're introduced to this group known as the Dark Riders. I think they're X-Men. It didn't really give me that much detail. Some of them are pretty cool. We got this dude called Forearm, pun intended, because he has 4 arms. Mammomax, which is just like a mammoth humanoid. My favorite is Shark Girl, because, I mean, let's face it, there's nothing funnier than a shark's head on a human body. It's so goofy looking, you can't hate it. All in all, the Curse of the Man-Thing, the 50th anniversary for Man-Thing, it was pretty cool. I'm not let down by it by any means. The art in this book, still excellent. The story overall was really well done. I love big team-ups, and I love when everybody's involved. X-Men, Curse of the Man-Thing, pick it up. Before I get into my last 2 comics, I'm going to talk to you about my favorite digital comic I read this week. I read digitally on ComiXology. I'm not getting paid to tell you about ComiXology, okay? I really just want y'all to know your resources to read comics. If you don't have a comic shop, or you don't want the collecting part, into it for the reading, ComiXology is super cool. It's only $5.99 a month for ComiXology Unlimited. You get a ton of free books. I mean, a ton. I've discovered so many good series and just volumes and different independent series. ComiXology is well worth the money if you love to read. You download it straight to your phone. You read on it on your phone. It's awesome. So, the big thing that I found on ComiXology this week that I loved, Something is Killing the Children, Volume 1. Holy cow, I wish I would have known about this when it came out. This series is awesome. It's totally violent, it's brutal, definitely not for children. This series is fun. It's so different. Basic rundown is in the title. Something is killing the children. In the beginning of the volume, these kids, they're at a sleepover, and it doesn't show you what happens, but you know that all of them end up dying but one. And then this weird girl comes to town named Erica Slaughter. Love that name. And she says she's a monster hunter. It's so good. If you want to read something and you don't have a comic shop, definitely download ComiXology. The first month's free, so if you just want something to do, you're bored, you want something that you can just have in the palm of your hand and your phone, download this app, get the first month for free, check out Something is Killing the Children, and then anything else that's on Unlimited. It's so vast, it's awesome. Now on to my indie titles. I'm going to be honest, you guys. Both of my indie titles are my pick of the week. I could not decide between either of these books. They are both so well done. I have one that's an issue 1. The other is an issue 3. We're going to talk about the first one here. Issue number 1 of The Good Asian. Holy cow, you guys. I loved this book. I'm so excited for this series. Right now, it's only going to be a 9-issue series, and I hope it gets expanded after that, because this is so well done. My favorite genres are crime, noir, western. That's my favorite genres to read, and this is noir and crime on a whole nother scale. It's so well done. Shout out to the creative team on this book. You guys nailed it, and you should be so proud of yourself. This is top tier storytelling, art, historical context. This is so good. This story follows Detective Edison Hark. Edison Hark leaves Honolulu to come to San Francisco in the year 1936. For those of you that don't know your history, the creative team created these great panels to just give you a little bit of a overview of what was going on in the world at this setting and this point in time. And a lot of people tend to forget, during World War II, the Chinese here in America were not treated well at all. We tend to forget that we threw them in concentration camps. We had an immigration ban on the Chinese back then because everybody was so scared after Pearl Harbor. Chinese were blamed for the Depression in 1874. FDR made the decision to keep the Chinese out of America and detain them with or without just cause, simply out of fear. Read this story following this character, and in the very beginning of the book, he's in one of these holding facilities for his people. It's very, wow. We tend to forget that things aren't always great, and they haven't always been great. And this is really good storytelling. Edison has an eye for details. He's really a good detective, as you can see in these panels. The little red squares that are showing up on the little details of the people he's examining, I guess. He's picking up these clues to who they are, what they've done. I don't want to give you too much details as far as the story goes. The main plot points is he's searching for his adoptive father's mistress, who also happens to be of Chinese origin, and she was their maid. Edison then follows a lead from his adoptive brother that leads him down to where he thinks she might be, and he discovers some potential Chinese gang violence. We'll put it into context. It's the 1930s, and there's Chinese gang violence. I mean, what do we think's going to happen? If you're Chinese at that point in time, living in the area, and they think that your people was involved, good luck, man. The police are going to come after you. This is very heavy-hitting stuff. This is a really well-written, high-intensity noir. This is just a great book. I believe we have a future classic on our hands. I believe Edison Hart could go down as an iconic character in comic books. I really think that The Good Asian has the potential to be one of the greatest noirs of all time. Only bad part about this book is I have to wait until June to get the second issue. That's it. There was nothing wrong with this book. The art is killer. If you look at all the different pages that I'm about to show you, the color schemes, they just really captures the mood. You know, like I said in one of my videos about Radiant Black, and the music and movies capturing the mood, the colors and the art of this book really gets the nitty gritty. When I've read this book, I felt on edge. It just really was well done. The Good Asian. Check it out, you guys. This book is fantastic. All right, guys, last but not least, my second pick of the week. Nocterra, number 3. Wow. Okay, let's talk about Nocterra. I picked up issue 1 when it came out, just out of curiosity. The cover of it was really cool, so I picked it up. And it was good. The plot caught my attention, but it just really didn't resonate with me yet. But I'm very much a believer, especially with comics. Don't judge a series by one issue. Give it a chance. Get 2, 3, 4, 5 issues in and then give me an opinion, okay? I don't need to go that much deeper into this because this series kicks ass. This book rules. Shout out to the creative team. Scott Snyder, Tony S. Daniel, Tomu Mori. You guys are crushing this series right now. I love Nocterra, and I know I'm not the only one because all 3 issues have been sent back for reprints. So this is a really good series, you guys. So to give you a little bit of an overview of the story, we have our main protagonist, Val, as you can see on the cover. This is a world swallowed in darkness. And we don't really know exactly what had happened, but the book refers to it as the Big PM. There's no sunlight, and the darkness is changing everything, including living things. I don't want to call it a mutation per se. The book in this issue, there's a quote in it, there's a scientist, and he's calling it a metamorphosis. Darkness, whatever it may be, turning people into these bloodthirsty, crazy monsters. And it's super fun. So Val is a transport driver, right? She's driving an 18-wheeler rig. They call these drivers ferrymen. She's currently hauling herself, her brother, who in previous issues we know that he is infected with the darkness. He's not turned yet, but he is infected. They're trying to find a cure before he changes permanently. And she has this old man and his granddaughter, and he claims he can fix everything. He claims he knows the secrets to change the world back to normal. So the world being as hopeless as it is, Val doesn't really see any other reason not to listen to him and be like, okay, like, get in the truck. And they're being chased by this all-black silhouette figure named Blacktop Bill. And the way they're building up this character, Blacktop Bill, they're making him almost kind of like a folklore within this book. It's like people in the world, they've heard about this guy, but nobody's ever seen him, and nobody knows who he is or who he was. And I think that's really fun. It's like, ooh, Blacktop Bill? I bet you could have been like a FedEx driver back in the day, or like maybe an astronaut or whatever. Like, it's really fun to speculate. Like, Blacktop Bill. It's kind of a corny name, but I like it. Like, I remember that. Like, I don't have to be like, what's that character's name? No, it's Blacktop Bill. Val, being the transport driver, she goes from place to place, and they call these places seaports, and they use neon lights, any type of light that they can get a hold of, batteries, lanterns, everything is pretty much the currency in this world right now. And these seaports are just giant light zones, I guess. I don't really know what else to call it other than what they do. It's a seaport. It's to keep everything out that's not normal. That's really all I'm going to tell you about this issue without giving you any spoilers. Let's just go into detail about the characters and why I love them. Specifically, Val. Val doesn't fit the mold of a main character. Most times when you read a book or watch a movie or whatever, the main character is your hero. Don't give up hope. We can do this. We can fix whatever the problem is. Val is broken. Val has no hope. In this issue, her and the preteen girl, Bailey, they get into a spat because the preteen girl, she's like, yeah, my grandfather, like, he can fix this, we can do this. And Val's just pretty much like, no, fuck you. Val has absolutely no hope left. This world has completely broken her. And I really like this point of view from the protagonist. We love seeing our heroes and triumph and follow the line, and I guess the typical scripting of your main character, but she's not. She's very much the opposite without being bad. She is like, oh, we can save the world? I doubt it. It's not going to happen. Oh, we have a problem? There's no fixing that. We're screwed. She's very pessimistic as a main character, and I'm enjoying it. I've watched some other reviews of people talking about this book, and they hate it, and I'm like, why? It's so different, and it's innovative, and it's creative. I really, really love the character traits they're giving her. Nocterra, number 3. Add this series to your pull list, you guys. You're not going to want to miss it. Alright, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, share. I love feedback. I'll take any feedback you have, positive, negative. Just let me know if you're enjoying it. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Tune in for next week's video. Next week's video is going to be pretty cool. I got a lot of good comics coming out next week. Support your local comic shop. Share what you love. Love what you do. We'll catch you next week on the Weekly Pulls.